Hey guys, welcome back to Bear Mountain Builds, and today I'm going to show you how to build a rock solid bench and chairs that you can sit on like this, or use it as a table like this, and it's even strong enough to sit like this. Now, let's get started. So for most of my projects, I like to use construction lumber because it's really inexpensive, and once you plane it down, it looks pretty good. So for this, I have a lot of planing ahead of me. This isn't even all my 2x4s, but I got the planer all set up. Let's run these through and let's get started. I want to preface this video with saying that you do not need to plane your boards. I do it because it creates tight joints and provides a more modern look, and you could just as easily use a table saw to achieve pretty much the same thing. You can also just skip this step entirely. It will save time and it will make it look a little bit more rustic. For those of you that don't know, a 2x4 is actually 3.5 by 1.5 inches, and for this first stage I'm taking these down to be 3.25 by 1.25. Alright, so I've gotten through the first round of planing and I've gone ahead and separated out my boards. So what I've done is these boards are my best boards. They look the best, there's not very many knot holes, and they're super straight. There hasn't been any warping going on. These are kind of my middle boards. There's some knot holes, but they got pretty clean edges, and overall they're very straight. So these two boards piles right here are going to make up the structure of the bench, and they're going to be the most visible. Now these boards, these are the ugly boards. They're actually not that ugly. They all look still pretty good, and they're overall pretty straight. These are going to be my spacers. They're going to get planed down a little bit more, and then they're going to get stained, so it covers up a lot of the stuff that I didn't like, such as the knot holes or the heavy grain that's on here. So these are going to be set aside, and we're going to run these through the planer one more time. Let's keep going. All right, it was a lot of 2x4s, but the planing is finally done and they're all looking super good. I'm still amazed at how good your everyday construction lumber can look after some planing. Now, we're moving on to our spacers. We're going to get these cut to length and then we're going to stain them. Let's keep going. This build has a lot of repetitive cuts that all need to be the same length, so I highly recommend using a miter saw with a bench stop. I told you, a lot of cuts. Alrighty, there is a lot of cutting in this project, but luckily it's really repetitive and it goes pretty fast, so I've got all my spacers cut out, ready to go. I just need to do some sanding to clean off the burrs, and then we'll stain them, and then we're moving on to the rest of the structure. Let's keep going. If you want to stain softer woods like pine, you need to apply wood conditioner first. This relaxes the wood fibers and allows for more uniform penetration of the stain. I'm only applying the wood conditioner and stain to the sides and ends of the boards because that's all that will be exposed. I wanted a lot of contrast between the spacer boards and the structure boards, so I'm using a black walnut water-based stain. I'm rubbing the stain in with a cloth, and after 2 minutes I wipe off the excess. All right, so I got all my spacers cut, conditioned, and stained. It takes some time, but it really is super easy. Now this section is gonna be my bench. This is gonna be a chair, this is gonna be a chair, and this is gonna be a chair. Now you might be thinking, that's a lot of cutting, that's a lot of dimensions. Well, that's true, but I have plans for this whole build linked down below in the description, so please go check those out. Now we have even more cutting ahead of us because we have a lot of boards left, so let's keep going. I'm putting blue painter's tape on any boards that look good and could be used as the front pieces. All right, we got all our pieces cut out. There is a ton here, but it's gonna go together super fast. So right here, these are our pieces for our bench, and then everything up here is gonna be our chairs. Now, before we do assembly though, I just wanna ask you guys to please hit the subscribe button. We are on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I know we can do it with your guys' help. Also, leave a comment letting me know where you guys are from if you do subscribe. Some of you guys have done it in the past, and I think it's so cool that people are watching my videos that I film here in my garage building woodworking projects from around the world, both in like New Zealand, here in the States, in Canada, in Mexico, in Germany, in Ireland. I've seen people all over the place. It's so cool. So thank you for watching. Now, let's keep going. For the first face piece, I'm pocket screwing the boards together to ensure I'm starting from a perfectly snug and square base. I'm gluing and brad nailing the spacer layer in place. For this whole assembly process, you want to really make sure that the outside edge of each layer is in line with the previous. If you get out of alignment, it's very difficult to recover, so just take your time and keep things square. Every so often, I use a speed square to check my progress. You really want a brad nailer for this step. I'm using 18 gauge, 1 3/4" brad nails. If you don't have a compressor, I recommend getting an electric brad nailer like my Dewalt that I have, but if you already have a compressor and want to save some money, you can use a pneumatic nailer, which is lighter, but you'll have to deal with the connected hose. I cut a spacer that's wider than it needs to be, but it does its job and positions the centerpiece. You want to make sure the leg piece is snug against the horizontal cross piece so it can transfer the load to the floor. From here, it's rinse and repeat. I had a few boards that didn't want to sit fully flat, but luckily, clamps can be very persuasive. For the final face layer, I didn't want to have any visible brad nail holes, so I just glued and clamped it in place. With the bench done, I moved on to putting the chairs together. With everything put together, I ran the bottom of the legs through the table saw to level them out. All right, we've got the bench and the chairs all put together. They look super good and they are absolutely rock solid. Now we just have a few more finishing details and these things will be done. Let's keep going. I'm using an 1/8 inch round over bit to break all the edges. I went over pretty much every edge because it looks good and plain boards can get pretty sharp and are very uncomfortable to sit on. Don't forget to round the underside of the first board where you pick it up. I touched up the stain at the corners, then applied crystal clear matte finish poly. With that, this project is done. All right, the bench and chairs are done. They look amazing and they are absolutely rock solid. Now, I built this for indoor use, which is why I use construction lumber, but if you're gonna build this for outdoor use, I highly recommend you use pressure treated lumber, of course. And as always, hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all my future videos. And if you enjoyed this video at all, please hit that like button. I really appreciate it and it helps me out a ton. And as always, leave a comment. I love reading your guys' comment. Let me know what you think of this whole build. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.